When was the worst time you've ever felt the urge to poop? Every time I enter a bookstore for some reason. The bus. I went to college in a small town and had to take the bus. For some reason I always had to shit when I got on the bus. I would even try to shit at home before I sent to the bus stop and nothing. But the ducking second we went past the last stop where I could locate a bathroom, my guts would seize up. I'm lucky, but more than once, I made my peace with being a guy that shit his pants on the bus, only to avert crisis at the last moment. I have to walk home 1 miles from work at 2:30 in the morning. One night I was about halfway home, and I got the very distinctive oh feeling. I walked the remaining 1-2 mile with clenched butt cheeks, constantly feeling like at any moment I could lose control. It was the longest walk of my life. I served in combat in Iraq and felt less fear than I did that night. The pressure increased with every block I passed. Soon though, home was in sight. But it's that feeling, that relief is coming, and subconsciously you start to think you can relax. Cognitive dissonance set in. Fighting against my own urge to relax. Fighting against the urge to walk faster, I had to force myself to slow down. The last 100 feet felt like an eternity. I reach my front door and it's locked, so I fumble with my keys trying to get the door unlocked, while I swear that I had a snapping turtle poking its head out. I drop my keys. Carefully, slowly I reach down for my keys and slowly, carefully stand back up and unlock the door. Before the door had even closed behind me, I already had my belt undone, and as I raced down the hall I got my button and zipper down. Finally my goal was in sight. I have never looked upon a toilet with so much fondness. I dropped my pants, and as I positioned myself over the bowl I lost control. What followed was the most amazing, rapturous release of gastric pressure I had ever felt. All I could hear was a ship sounding out in the fog as water splashed my cheeks. The dog started barking back through the bathroom door. The relief was so great that I began to feel like I would pass out from the sheer release. Over the next 5 minutes I experienced wave upon wave of pressure and release. I stand back up and turn around to witness the war crime I had just committed upon my throne. Not a nugget. All of that pain, suffering, and fear. It was a fart. I had almost this exact same experience, but missed the bowl by 6 inches. It was not a fart. Had this same ducking experience. But I was a kid back then. Humiliating as hell. In the middle of a driver training session, the instructor I was paired with was a total douche. If he needed food for lunch he would make me take him through drive-thrus and stuff, but if I needed a bathroom break, hell no. Man, I stunk up the car so bad with raunchy smelling farts. Was so glad when it ended, and I ran to the mall bathrooms. Well, I guess your driving instructor had a weird fetish. Finally back to farter. This is gonna be one thorough exam. When I'm sharing a hotel room with my girlfriend, and she is also shitting. Do it together lol. Dibs on the waffle stomp. During sex, realized about halfway through I needed to lay some landmines, but she was on top. Thankfully I was able to power through, and even came beforehand, but then sprinted to the pearl throne as soon as possible. Made noise that sounded like a goose honking and vomiting simultaneously. Then came out to the ex who had a startled look in her eye. I made a light-hearted joke about Mexican food and that saved the situation. But now I go before every time. While hauling a 80-pound tank full of 120 F acid through the mean streets of Chicago, IL. Hazmat load means I'm required to stop at every railroad crossing. And there are plenty of railroads in Chicago. Constantly stopping, going, and driving over train tracks, not to mention the surge from the tank, did a number on my stomach. I was literally seconds from dropping the big one. Luckily my destination had a portage right outside the security gate. During my final exam lasted 3 hours. Cantilever exam rules. So I stood up, undid my belt, dropped my trousers. "What are you doing?" they asked. "If I cannot leave, I'm doing it here." "Christ, just ducking go," was the panicked response. Nature decides if this is happening or not. You are simply choosing the location. Precisely. Duck those sorts rules anyway. Couple weeks ago, when I shit my pants while I was out running. I can relate. While out running years ago, The urge hit me hard. I had to sit down on the side of the road in an attempt to seal up the sphincter. To give my move some legitimacy in case I was being surveilled, I began working on my shoelaces, like they were the reason for my crisis. Fortunately, I was able to weather the storm and make back home unsoiled. A tour bus. 2 days after I birthed my first baby, it was excruciating. Popped stitches. That's the worst. Worst pain ever besides actual childbirth. My very new girlfriend been together for 2 weeks at the time and I were on a 5-mile hike. Halfway up the mountain I had the urge to go. By the time we reached the top I was barely holding it in. But of course we had to sit at the top for a few minutes to take in the view. We were too early in the relationship to let her know I had to take a shite. By the time we were headed down the mountain I decided to let her lead the way, so she wouldn't notice as I walked very uncomfortably as I tried holding it in. I was walking straight-legged, cheeks clenched, hopping every few steps as to stop anything from coming out. Needless to say, when we finally reached the Porto Jones at the bottom I had a skid mark in my drawers and ended up disposing of them in the shitter. I had to go commando in my jeans the rest of the day. Made a huge mistake and took a friend on in a competition to see who could eat the most pizza. After 5 plates we called it quits. The following day I was in work. I was a bus driver at the time. I started outside working into the city and it hit me and I knew I was in big trouble. I had picked up 2 middle-aged women and that was that. I had to take the numbers off the bus and I drove like a man possessed. Did not stop for anyone else. The bus had the old style synthetic plastic seats and the women were sliding back and forth the long window seat as I took corners almost on 2 wheels. They were breaking their heart laughing. Thought it was hilarious one. Man, I was in such pain. At last I got into the city and ran into the shop that allowed us use the bathroom. Bolted upstairs, kicked the door open. No ducking toilet paper. Kicked the ladies' door open and by God I just made it. As you can imagine it sounded like a flock of starlings taking off. Close one. Waiting for surgery. I thought I was constipated one day and ended up going to the emergency room because I was in so much pain. I was not constipated. I needed to have my appendix removed. The next morning they woke me up to prep for surgery when the X-Lax I took the day before kicked in. The IV stand would not fit in the bathroom door, so it had to stay a little open the whole time. Poor nurses. It was bad. I took a poop on a road trip in the car in a half-gallon iced tea carton. My b-hole was straight sealed to the top going 80 down the turnpike. Cracked the window in consideration of the other people in the car. WTF how? I was in the back of the station wagon, pretty much pulled my drawers down, spread my crack, and placed the jug to my b-hole. Had to leave a slight gap for airflow. When I read your prior comment, for some reason I thought you were the one driving the car. Managed to get so constipated that my parents took me to Chia Children's Hospital. I ended up having to get a hydro enema. It was extremely unpleasant. I was told to hold it in for 5 minutes before I could go to the bathroom, which was 2 doors down from my room. The doctor promised to keep it free for me. When I finally could not take it anymore I got off the examination table and bolted to the bathroom. Yeah, the doctor did not save me the bathroom. I had to run 40 feet in a public hospital in a t-shirt and a bedsheet to find another bathroom. Thankfully I managed to not shit in the hallway, but I hated that doctor for putting me through that. People outside a tour probably want to know what cheer is. Walking home from school you have to move a good pace so you can make it to the pooping spot, but slow enough so it do not fall out. Valentine's sex. Why not combine it for extra kicks? Oddle, is that you? Off the top of my head, when I was playing hide and go seek as a child. The 5th grade mile run test, not practice, the actual test. In a traffic jam. Elementary school graduation awards ceremony. Basically I had to unleash holy hell on the nearest toilet, but I was on stage and the ceremony took way longer than it should have, but I somehow willpowered through it and made it to a bathroom. I am very proud of not shitting myself in front of the entirety of 5th grade. Brought a girl way out of my league home from a date and night out. We were making out on my bed and got down to our UNZ and I decided I needed a drink of water. Breath tasted like cigarettes. As I'm standing at my kitchen sink slamming the water and thinking you lucky dog. First lay in a few months and it's looking to be a good one. I felt the urge to fart. I let it rip and super sharted. I snuck back to the bedroom and peeked in and she fell asleep. I jumped in the shower and tossed the shitted boxes out the front door. I woke her up and the night ended good. She married me a year and a half later. I had never sharted before this night. The boxes landed on the windshield of my truck and froze to it. 5 minutes before descent into the airport, they announce over the intercom that descent will begin soon, and my mom asks me if I need to use the bathroom before we buckle in, and I say no. As soon as the fasten seatbelt sign comes on, and they announce that descent has begun, so stow away everything, I suddenly had to go. Longest descent of my life. Right when we landed and taxied to the gate, I jumped up and ran for the bathroom. In the middle of the night camping, there was raccoons outside and the batteries died in my flashlight. On a plane, 30,000 feet up, at turbulence, a dash of alcohol and mix I will never eat before or during a flight again. When I was a kid on the school bus, I made it home, but I had a long driveway. While running down it I poured myself. I cried and cried. I felt so ashamed. My mom was consoling and assured me it was okay and it happens. But to this day I think about it. When I was in elementary school I got off the bus that dropped us off at the top of the street, a half mile from my house at the bottom of the street. I made it to the front door, but didn't he have the key and was banging on the door for my older brother. But he was too late. Diarrhea down my pants and into my shoe. Forgot about that until I read your comment. A long time ago in 2nd grade, I was getting first prize for the biggest school art competition in the county. It was a really big event and it was streamed on TV. I had to make a small speech and felt the urge like halfway through. I thought I was going to die. There were like 1,000 people in the room. I ended up just rushing through and somehow made it. Nobody suspected a thing. It was terrifying. And that is how I developed anxiety and I have had it ever since. I was on the way to work once. New York City heavy traffic. The excruciating pain started in the beginning of my 45-minute commute but subsided. So I continued. Since I didn't want to be late, I decided not to stop. Well, about 15 minutes to my destination, the pain came back with a vengeance. I knew that I wasn't going to make it up the stairs to the bathroom once I pulled into the parking lot. However, to my luck, it subsided just enough to make it up the steps and to my throne. This normally never happens. I am not sure why it happened that day. Edit. The pain was so excruciating that I clenched the steering wheel and couldn't really control the gas and brake. I felt like at some point I was going to crash. Shitting my pants was not an option. I get nervous diarrhea during exams. My classmates ask me how I always finish my exams so quickly. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.